Let's talk about one of the biggest challenges in Agile, making promises you can actually keep. It's everything, right? So today, we're going to break down exactly how you can do that by finding that perfect balance between what your team has done in the past and what you can realistically do in the future. So here's the million-dollar question. How do you look at a pile of work and say with confidence, yep, we can get that done? Because we've all been there. If you overpromise, you get burnout and broken trust. But if you underpromise, you slow everything down. Finding that sweet spot, that's the real key to a healthy, high-performing team. Now, you might be thinking, isn't this a problem for any project? And yeah, it is. But it's a huge deal in Agile for a reason. Think about the old way, waterfall. You had one big, fixed, long-term plan that was set in stone. But Agile is all about being flexible, adapting on the fly. And that awesome power to change means we need a totally different way to forecast our work. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Our first key metric is something called velocity. And the best way to think about it is like looking in the rearview mirror. It's all about understanding what your team has actually delivered, their proven track record. So what is velocity exactly? Well, in Agile, we use story points to estimate the effort for a piece of work. Velocity is just the total number of story points your team got all the way to done in a previous sprint. It's not a wish, it's not a goal, it's a cold, hard fact. And here's a super important point. We don't just look at the last sprint. I mean, that could have been a fluke, right? A really good week or a really bad one. A team's true velocity is their historical average, usually over the last 3 sprints. This smooths out the bumps and gives you a much more stable, reliable picture of what your team can consistently do. Okay, so if velocity is the rearview mirror, let's look forward through the windshield. This is our second key metric, capacity. It answers the question, okay, that's what we've done before, but what can we realistically tackle in the very next sprint? This definition really boils down to one simple, powerful word, availability. Capacity is not about what your team could do in a perfect fantasy world. Nope. This is about the real world, where people take vacations, have holidays, and, live their lives. It's all about their actual time. I get it. Velocity, capacity, these can sound like a bunch of abstract jargon. So let's make this super practical and concrete. We're going to walk through a real-world example so you can see how this theory becomes a tool you can actually use. All right, so let's set the scene. Imagine our team, 8 people, and they're working in a totally standard 2-week sprint. These are our starting numbers. Now, finding their real available capacity is actually a super simple 4-step calculation. We're just going to start with the perfect world number and then get more and more realistic with each step. Step 1, we start in that perfect world. Let's call it ideal capacity. If each of our 8 team members can usually complete about 8 story points in a sprint, we just multiply that out and we get 64. That's our starting line, our absolute maximum. But of course, the world isn't perfect. People take vacations. So for step 2, we get real and subtract any planned leave. Let's say we look at the calendar and see 4 vacation days spread across the team. We just subtract 4 points from our total. Easy. Now, step 3. This is what separates the good teams from the truly great ones. You have to plan for the unplanned. Sick days, family emergencies, life happens. So based on past trends, this team knows to build in a little buffer. They proactively subtract another 2 points. And there you have it. We started at that perfect world number of 64, but after we got real about vacations and sick days, we landed on 58 story points. That's the number. That is the realistic, grounded in reality capacity the team can use to plan their next sprint. Okay, so now we have our 2 magic numbers, velocity, what we did, and capacity, what we can do. So how do these 2 actually work together? This is where it all clicks. This table just lays it out so clearly. You use capacity before the sprint for planning. It's your guide. You commit to work that fits inside that 58-point number. Then, when the sprint is over, you look back and measure what you actually completed. Let's say the team finished 54 points. Boom! That 54 becomes your new velocity. It's historical data that makes your next planning cycle even smarter. So let's bring this all home. Why does any of this really matter? Is this just about making charts look good? No way. It goes so much deeper than that. The power of doing this all comes down to one incredible thing, predictability. When you plan with capacity and measure with velocity, you can finally make realistic promises you can keep. And just think about the ripple effect of that. Your team doesn't get burned out from being overworked. Your stakeholders start to trust you because you do what you say you're going to do. And best of all, you create this amazing feedback loop that just makes your forecasting more and more accurate over time. It is a total game changer. Look, if you only remember one thing from all this, let it be this simple idea. Velocity is the past. It's the proven record of what your team did. Capacity is about the future. It's a realistic plan for what your team can do right now. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. How could bringing this balance of planning and reality improve your next project? This isn't just about hitting targets. It's about building trust, creating a sustainable pace for your team, and fundamentally transforming your entire way of working.